The whole point of Project Robin was to show you guys something amazing Robin can do. And I think in this video, after rewatching it, I kind of didn't really show off how cool Robin can be against commanders who don't have a lot of attack damage, i.e. Rogers and Elf. That's about it, which are huge commanders people have to worry about. And Robin does quite good against them. I'm going to show you this little ace replay, and then I'll give you guys the full video. But I don't want to totally ignore the fact that we had a Project Robin video series because of how cool this was. Everyone should know about this. And maybe in the future we will see a big, massive Robin come into play. I don't know. I think there's better options for infantry damage right now. And as cool as this is, I don't think we're going to see it at the super highest level. But I'd be interested to see if regular, normal, mid-sized players go for this kind of build and just punish the bosses on their server that are sticking to Elf and Rogers. So let us know. So, Ares triggers, and now whenever Rogers hits me, he's not going to hit me for any damage. I feel like in this video I kind of trash Robin and his potential. Is when he triggers Ares or Virgo, he lowers his opponent's damage so much, it does kind of render them useless. But of course, as a Rogers player, if you know that that's a problem you're dealing with in the current meta with Virgo and Ares, all you have to do is just stack, honestly, one big Titan, give yourself 400% bonus attack or 300%, and that means your opponent would have to trigger Ares and Virgo 2 or 3 times on their turn just to nullify your damage. I think that, honestly, and if Rogers does know that's a problem he's having, he can just put 2 Titans on and fix that problem. So I feel like I shit really big on Robin this video, but he actually is really cool. So he's got his defensive stance. I haven't even nullified his defensive stance with my chain skill. And I don't have Andromeda on, but I wanted to add this replay in because I want to show Rogers' damage when he does land the hit after all the Ares are on him. Just kind of as a reminder. I feel like I did a poor job of representing how good Robin can be, why he even had a video series in the first place. Because with all this Ares stacking, he really can make his opponent's damage useless. If they would just show me a Gemini. Give me a... Oh, jeez. Maybe he'll hit. No. Oh, 0 damage. So there, you see all the 0 damage on the Awakenings? So yeah, I was able to nullify all of his damage, but Rogers can get around that with just a couple of attack weapons. So still cool, still good. I don't love it. I think there are better defensive balance builds in the meta right now. And I don't know. We're just not seeing a lot of it. Maybe we'll see a big Robin this season. I hope so. That would be really cool. But let's get into this video. Well, guys, Robin gingerly made it into the Season 7 Commander Card Series, and also comes at a time where we can perfectly wrap up Project Robin Part 3, kind of the conclusion of Robin. It was an experiment of how good is this commander in the new Season 7 Tier 12 meta. And after playing with him for a month or so in the 6v6, and then just overall getting more comfortable trying him out in capital fights and whatnot, I finally have a conclusion on what I think of Robin and kind of where he's going in the current meta. And I think he still has a role to play, especially in small skirmishes and capital battles, but it's a little bit gem dependent. So the thing about Robin you need to know is he's basically like Lilith. Both of them kind of rely on their second skill 60% chance to either disable their opponent or make them skip their turn. Remember, the new Andromeda jewel makes your opponent across the way skip their turn. It's literally Lilith's skill. Robin's skill actually doesn't make them skip the turn. They still get to have the turn. They just don't get to trigger any skills or gems. And if you're running a decent bit of dodge gear, they're not going to land a hit. Unless they're Medusa or Pictor and they buffed all their troops before that slot went. But in general, it's easy to say that they're both great counters to the Rogers meta, because you wouldn't really use them against offensive commanders like what the meta is shifting to. Vegas, Neko, Gilly, Pictor. You're not going to use commanders like this, and that's kind of what the meta has shifted to. So as much as I love these commanders, I think that Rogers being so easily countered by Reinhardt and Full Metal, and Robin or any infantry commander with Andromeda can really do some damage to Rogers. But if and really Stella, I think what it really comes down to is the main issue with Robin and Lilith is they lack damage. So Robin has this 20% Riposte Libra skill. Basically, if you attack him, he attacks you back. That's what Libra does. And it just doesn't hit very hard. I don't even think it crits. And it's just not enough to really put a dent in a big opponent, especially an airship opponent, which is a lot of your matchups. So although he has a guaranteed hit, it's about the weakest one you can get. And even though you can put big damage gear on him, where the meta's at currently, it really requires you to have skills like Sniper, Breakdown, or things that ignore your opponent's defense or HP, because hitting them straight up with combat damage, you got to have a ton of penetration to really get through and do some real damage. So unless we find a build that specializes in giving Robin a tremendous amount of penetration that really helps him hit hard, I don't think he's going to have a place in the meta. I kind of put him in the same category of Elf and Rogers, because they're defensive commanders, balanced commanders. They really don't have that great one-slot potential. And unfortunately, we got sick of the boss commanders, and the devs have made a point to kind of bring back a more balanced damage meta. And I just overall, I wanted to make this video in support of Robin and Lilith in Project 3, saying these are viable tank builds. But the fact of the matter is every time I go into the 6v6, my matchups against Vega or even Golem were just so one-sided. It was disheartening to even use Robin anymore, because I know what I'm up against. It's always the same thing. It's always those offensive commanders. So even though I did pretty well against the other Rogers in the matchup, they just weren't matchups I was interested in pursuing. I don't think the meta's going there. And for super late game players, which a lot of the players that are watching this are thinking about, should I main a Robin? And the answer is probably not. It's just the damage just isn't there yet. If you're a server boss and you're way bigger than everyone else and you just want to park a commander in a capital and just dominate, yeah, you could do that. But you could probably get away with just using a big Stella with one slot bust. And that's kind of what this comes back to. Because the Andromeda jewel set is out, and Stella has all these extra chances to trigger, really a Sagittarius and an Andromeda on a Stella is far more dangerous than the damage provided by ambush and then sticking Andromeda on him. And even him with Sagittarius, just, I don't know. The thing about this chain skill is like you are disabling your opponent from doing harm to you, but it comes at your own turn. And we kind of see something similar in Magic the Gathering, the card game. If you have to spend a card to make your opponent discard a card, you're basically giving away a card so they give away a card. It doesn't help anyone. The only way it helps if something special happens, like when you have more cards in your graveyard, you get more use out of it. Well, for him, his special is that Rogers is so dependent on his defensive stance, he can nullify and make Rogers way less potent. But then guys like Full Metal come in and just wipe the buff out entirely. So there are better ways to deal with the Rogers problem, and he doesn't have that offense problem. So that's kind of what I want to show you as far as Robin is concerned. Now, I guess I didn't spend any time talking about gems. The Andromeda gem, sure. But also with the new Virgo gem, by lowering your opponent's attack damage, and that's a lot of what this build is about, was using, Sagittarius for guaranteed hit damage, and then Aries to lower your opponent so you can take the hits. And like I said, with the right, even with the new heavy stuff, you don't want to get hit. I don't know. That's kind of a lot, but I would say that Virgo is probably better than Aries at this point. Makes them go later. It gives you more chances to hit, softens them up before they hit you. But when the new meta is shifting to Gilly and Neko, it's hard to show people a Robin build that's viable as a tank strategy and then kind of ignore what's going on with Nekajiro. Check this out. This is a replay. Now, this is a very high-level, high-geared player that hits a Leo and a Sniper. So he's ignoring 60% of the HP and 60% of his opponent's defense. And remember, these are infantry. They're not airships. But watch what 87 does when he's outnumbered 15-1 or 13-1. He one-shots that slot. Just one-shots it. I mean, it's so much power. It's so much power. I mean, if Robin were to get the perfect triggers in the same gear, if he did half of that damage, he'd be lucky. And the fact of the matter is I think there's just better options out there in the infantry meta right now. And even if he did build a real tanky Robin, he's still going to be vulnerable to Elf and Rogers, his best matchups, and especially vulnerable to one slot bust or just big glass cannon. So that kind of ties up the Project Robin commander card video. I do have a image for Project Robin. The main Commander Season 7 build for the Commander card. He is number 6 of 13. If you want this high definition image to share it with your guild kind of as a too long didn't read, check in the description below. There's a high def version of it. Go to it. Download the full version. It should be like a gig, or what is it, a gigabyte? No, 1 megabyte to 3 megabytes, depending on the image. But that way you can zoom all the way in. If you zoom into the image and you can't read the text, you don't have the high def version or you didn't download it correctly. Or maybe you're previewing it in line. In line, you have to download it, then view it on your device. But that's Robin. Here's the gear choices, right? Tanky build, maybe dodge or fearless. Wrath from the Stars. Remember, damage penetration reduction works on tear space, so that's kind of why we factor it into everything now. And then the Wild Roses, we know they're good. We just think that Wild Roses and penetration stat needs to be fully stacked, like all penetration items, to really get that full value. Going like one Titan, one Wild Rose doesn't seem to be as effective. And then, yeah, I mean, going with a Shadow on the chest piece instead of Void is nice because the resistance weakened. And his biggest concerns are going to be guaranteed hit gems, and he can't dodge them. So as much as we like these Voids, they're just nullified. All that extra dodging gets nullified by guaranteed hit. And everyone's running 2, 3, 4 guaranteed hit gems nowadays. So dodge just isn't as good. And of course, it kind of goes both ways. Dodge isn't as good, and then commanders or gems like Leo ignore defense, so defense isn't as good. Sagittarius ignores HP, so HP is not as good. So the thing is like a guaranteed hit gem nullifies 100% of your dodge. But if you land a Leo, it only ignores 60% of your defense, not 100%. So I don't know. There's a lot going on there. I just think that in the current meta, Season 7, what this video is supposed to be about is this guy the guy to beat? Should anyone be maining him? And the answer is probably not. He probably shouldn't even have a small version of him. It's not like a 50k Robin is going to beat a 50k Rogers or a 200k Rogers. So I just don't see a great use for him. That's it. That's all I want to say about Robin. If you want the card, check the description below. If your guildmates want to argue about it, let them watch this video or just send them that image, and there's a long description of why I feel that way. And if they want to argue or if you have a different opinion about it, put it in the comments below. I'm open to criticism. I mean, I played him. I don't think I mastered him by any means, but going where the current meta is going, I think Robin is not going to necessarily have a play for the super big players. And that's that.